Hi, my name is Sierra Jorgensen, and for our group, we cover the topic of learning disabilities. So, we're going to start off with the definition of what a learning disability is. It states, a learning disability is a disorder in which one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself in the imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or to do mathematical calculations, including conditions such as perceptual disabilities, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. So, some characteristics that come with learning disabilities are students struggle to read and write, they struggle to socialize with others, they struggle with depression and or sadness, they sometimes have anxiety and high levels of stress, they struggle to retain and recall information, they have very small attention spans, and in some cases they can have tempers. They can't control their impulses, and it's hard for them to focus overall. So, with learning disabilities, there's many different challenges that can occur because there's not just one learning disability. Some factors that can make learning disabilities a challenge are the home and school settings. For example, some students can have problems at home, and when they come to school, they'll struggle to learn because they're distracted by what is happening with their home life. So that's just a few factors that come into classroom challenges. Going a little bit further, if you look at this image, it shows you the blocks of learning disabilities. It starts with the classroom environment at the bottom, and then it goes to the foundational blocks of learning disabilities, and then processing, and then conceptuals on top. So we'll go over those one by one. So with foundational blocks, there's 4 categories. So there's self-regulation, behavior, emotions, and resilience. So with self-regulation, students' attention span, regulating behavior, and controlling impulses, those are the main 3 things under that one. And these are the things that we need to work with on kids with learning disabilities and also have patience with them. So when kids struggle with their attention span, they have a hard time focusing, and so we need to help them with their attention and make sure that they are focusing on what we are teaching. The next one is behavior, and it's covert and overt actions, including social skills and reliance. So this is just basically their behavior in the classroom and their actions that they take in a classroom that they struggle with. Sometimes they struggle to know what is appropriate and what is not in a classroom setting. The third category is emotions, and this includes temperament and moods. So they struggle with their temper, and they get very moody at times, which can create challenges in a classroom. Emotions are very powerful, and in some learning disabilities, these emotions can create challenges with depression, anxiety, and poor motivation. And all of these emotions greatly impact our students, and they make it a challenge for them to learn and to grow. The last category for foundational blocks for learning disability is resilience. So this is how students view their successes and their failures or their learned attitudes. So this is basically just their attitudes with what they are doing in a classroom setting. So having poor self-efficiency can make it hard for children and students to have motivation to complete difficult tasks. With this, children really need a supportive school environment to succeed better in a classroom. Without that support, they struggle because they get caught up in their failures, and it's hard for them to grow and to try and overcome them. So the next section is processing blocks, and this has 4 categories underneath it, and it is phonological, orthographic, memory, and motor. So with phonological, it's processing an oral language ability that helps individuals to understand the sound structure of speech. So they have difficulties with reading and spelling caused by poor phonological awareness. This creates a challenge because sometimes they don't really understand what they're supposed to be doing, or they can't read to the best of their ability, to the best of other students' abilities, so they can't keep up. So that's one thing that learning disabilities creates a challenge as well. The next one is orthographic, which is writing system of language, punctuation marks, capitalization marks, and spelling patterns, and their perception and recall of letters and strings of word forms. So they just struggle to write and to understand and to recall the letters and strings of word forms. So, and then the next category is memory. So this one I think is one of the most common ones with learning disabilities. They struggle to remember what they're learning not only at home but at school as well. And with that, it's hard for them to learn because they are forgetting what they're learning. So that's something that can create a challenge. And the last one is motor, which is the motor tasks involving small muscles used in writing and drawing. So that's kind of similar with orthographic. They just struggle to write. And so because of that, they have a hard time learning because they can't express themselves on paper. All right, the last category is conceptual blocks. And there's 3 things that fall under this category, and they are verbal, nonverbal, and executive functions. So with verbal, students have a hard time thinking with language and understanding what is heard. They also have problems like comprehending written texts, expressing ideas through reading and writing, and learning how to use new vocabulary and solving math problems. So this is one that students struggle with when they have learning disabilities because they can't think and express their ideas. Well, they can think, but they can't express their ideas fully through reading and writing. Nonverbal is thinking with images and thinking in patterns. So this kind of goes along with memories that we saw in the first category of foundational blocks. So with nonverbal, it's just hard because they struggle to think with images and patterns, and so they struggle to remember what they've learned. The last one is executive functions, and it talks about how they struggle encompassing the abilities to motor performance and act strategically. So they just struggle to act in a classroom setting, and they struggle to perform in a classroom. All right, so moving on, now that we've covered the challenges for learning disabilities and what they are, we're going to talk a little bit about the medical advancements. So there are many different medical advancements for all sorts of learning disabilities, and there's not just one learning disability, there's many. Although learning disabilities have no cure, there are many ways to make it easier for our students to learn and to make it so that they struggle less while learning. Some ways that we have found to help students with learning disabilities grow and overcome their disabilities is through special education services. They help students to overcome their struggles and help them to slowly learn what they need to be learning. And over time, they start learning quicker and quicker. There are many different programs that help those with learning disabilities to overcome their challenges, not just special education programs. There's after school programs. There's so many different options that you can do. And here's our resources that we have and then our citations. Really fast, I'm going to end with this quote. And it says, "Learning disabilities cannot be cured, but they can be treated successfully, and children with learning disabilities can go on and live happy, successful lives." So we as teachers need to remember that even though students have learning disabilities, they can still grow and they can become the best they can. They can learn and they can improve and be able to socialize better as long as we take time and patience to help them improve and grow.